Hey guys, check it out. You're watching Jonathan Clarke on YouTube. Oh no! Hello once again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jonathan Clarke, so honored to be in your presence forever and always to talk everything Descendants and Zombies 3 once again this morning. I am incredibly excited about Zombies 5 happening in 2028, although 2028 feels like forever away. I give you my word, I will always and forever be here uploading Zombies videos to ensure the legacy of the Zombies franchise continues on for the foreseeable future and provide you the best commentaries and analogies that I think you've deserved for a very long time, because these Zombies reaction videos have been somewhat ridiculous to me. They've never really made sense to me because people just tell you what they like, what they don't like about the movie, but they never go in depth or in great detail about Zombies. And I think more of a greater detail needs to be looked at for Zombies, especially with how much the franchise meant to so many wonderful people from all walks of life. The cool thing about Zombies is it's not just one specific age demographic that it's touching the hearts of. It's touching the hearts of everybody from every age demographic, from all walks of life, from all over the world. And the cool thing about the Worlds Collide tour happening in late 2026 is it's going to head to places like Australia, the United Kingdom, Germany. I'm really excited about this because of the exposure that people like Freya Sky and Malachi Burton will receive now heading overseas, because this has never been done before. They did it in the United States, 43 arenas this past summer. They had a profound amount of success seen from the tour, and I think it had everything to do with the duets by Malachi Burton and Freya Sky doing a fabulous job, not only with their own specific duets from Zombies 4, Dawn of the Vampires, but songs that weren't even ever originally written for them. Of course, originally written for Meg Donnelly and Milo Manheim's characters Zed and Addison, such as Someday, really bringing it to life. That's a lot of responsibility when you think about it. Not only having to sing your own duets, but sing duets from other characters that you never ever had to rehearse. And then from out of nowhere, they just tell you, okay, you're going to sing every song from the Zombies franchise, do the best you can with it. Talk about pressure. But they definitely came through with it, and people loved it. And now they're talking about Leg 2 of the Worlds Collide Tour with Kylie Cantrell, Freya Sky, Malachi Burton, Malia Baker, Leah Monty Segura is potentially going to be coming in by the time the Descendants 5 soundtrack premieres next summer. I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about Descendants 5 Wicked Wonderland next summer too, because I think there's a greater appreciation now for Alice in Wonderland characters. I spoke on how yesterday I played Disney Speedstorm and the new season of Disney Speedstorm, which focuses on the Alice in Wonderland characters like Alice, the Queen of Hearts, even with how annoying she is. I actually played a couple of the racetracks as the Queen of Hearts because that was the objective, and I forgot how annoying her voice actually was. But even with how annoying the Queen of Hearts actually was in the story of Alice in Wonderland, she did have a lot of significance, and she did play a significant role in the success of that franchise because she became one of the most revered Disney villains of all time. Now, I want to give Rita Ora a lot of credit, too, for how she really brought the Queen of Hearts to life in a way that I don't think anybody else ever did bring a Queen of Hearts adaptation to life before. So, too, did Brandy, reprising a role for the first time since 1997. That was really cool, how Brandy came back. Prince Charming and Brandy, of course, representing the parents of Chloe Charming, who Mila Baker did a fabulous job bringing to life. The thing about the Descendants franchise is, no matter how much criticism it received, it's beloved by so many wonderful people. And I think that because of the criticism it received, everybody just thought so negatively of it. But the thing is, the fans of Descendants and Zombies were forever and always loyal to the product, which always seemed to give it life and bring it back to life when all hope was lost. The cool thing about the Descendants franchise was there was a greater appreciation shown to villains, which is what Disney has really come into over the years. You know, years ago when I was a Disney fan, I could never remember Disney villains being shown the appreciation that they've been shown in recent years. And now in recency, we've seen Disney villains have a greater appreciation. So the VK kids in the Descendants franchise just added more flavor to the recipe, and everything's exploded out of the cauldron for the Disney villains, because now a greater appreciation has been shown for them. So I think that this story, given the history and the lineage of the Disney villains, this story is far from over, and I think we have a lot to be excited about with the forthcoming Descendants 5 Wicked Wonderland this summer. A lot of people are really excited about what the title will imply for this one. Well, I think a lot of new storylines are going to happen. That's one thing that I anticipate happening with the Wicked Wonderland release, is because I think there's a lot of storylines that we will never ever have ever seen before going to happen in this one. A lot of new characters. I've been always intrigued by the Princess and the Frog and Encanto characters, seeing their introduction into this. I always have an appreciation for characters that are never given enough emphasis. So I think there are a lot of characters that Disney has kind of forgotten about, and they've tried to bring them back to life with everything from video games to having them show up in cameos for franchises such as Descendants. But I think a cameo does not do someone like Aladdin and Jasmine a whole lot of justice with how popular and how revered those characters have become ever since the lateral part of the 1990s. So I think that because there's such a revered history with people like Aladdin and Jasmine, I think a greater appreciation or more of a story could be given to them, and more of the spotlight could be given to them. Because, the way I look at it is, if you can give so much of the spotlight to Alice in Wonderland characters and show them a greater appreciation, so too can you show greater appreciation to characters from Cinderella who have yet to see their introduction into the franchise. I know that there are a lot of characters that I've noticed from the Cinderella franchise that have yet to see their introduction into the franchise, like Cinderella's, of course, stepsisters, who have yet to see an introduction into the Descendants franchise. We have so many villains from Cinderella who have yet to see their introduction into the franchise. I know this because I remember reading the stories about Cinderella and Alice in Wonderland and how significant they were to me as a kid. For those of you who don't know or can't remember, there are 4 books in the Alice in Wonderland series, so there's a lot more detail that goes with the Alice in Wonderland characters. So when you really think about it, you can talk about Descendants, The Rise of Red ending up as a trilogy, but you can make way more movies than just having it be a trilogy. You can make up to 4, possibly 5 movies, because you can always add into the story. Because with time travel, you can never go without expecting consequences, and because you can never go without expecting consequences, there is so much more of an opportunity to create more storylines, which makes it really intriguing. I, for one, would love the opportunity to travel back in time, pull a Phineas and Ferb, because I was always a big fan of Phineas and Ferb and how they built a time machine in their backyard, how they always annoyed their sister Candace. It was really, really cool seeing what Phineas and Ferb did with the concept of time travel. So believing that and trusting in that, I think that there's a lot that can be done with time travel with Alice in Wonderland characters too, especially off of the last movie and its profound success. Millions of people tuned into the premiere of Descendants: The Rise of Red because they knew it was going to be something special, and they tuned in with it with the hope that it was going to last forever and it was going to bring the Descendants franchise back to life in a way that it had never been brought back to life before. The thing is, zombies will be reintroduced now to a new audience, but the thing is about zombies is their story has forever and always been unpredictable, so I trust in the idea of new storylines coming into this, with mermaids and pirates now being the focus, possibly witches and sirens being discussed. But I mean, there's so much of a history with vampires, so much of a history with supernatural creatures and everything having to do with aliens. I've read so many stories about how people really do believe and have been left convinced that they were abducted, and I find that stuff really cool. So from the very first moment I saw the premiere of Zombies back in 2018, I knew it was going to be something special. Of course, it was a very simple script. It wasn't as detailed as what probably many people thought it was going to be, but it was a really cool way of introducing us to what the concept was going to be. And then in years to come, we would see the introduction of werewolves, which had a lot of detail, and then Aliens by Zombies 3. A lot of people thought that vampires were going to come before Aliens, but I think it was really cool how Aliens showed up in Seabrook by Zombies 3, and then Zombies 4 3.5 years later, after a 3.5-year hiatus, here come vampires. I think a lot of people were expecting to get more out of their vampire experience with zombies, but the thing you have to take into consideration too, I know this from reading down through my comments, is the age demographic again factors in there. So did you really want to see vampires, showing their fangs and doing the whole vampire thing traditionally? I really appreciate how Disney kind of changed it up, because it made the story that much more unpredictable. And now with Zombies 5 and the revealing of this vortex still to come, we don't know what's inside of the vortex, which makes it really intriguing to me as a fan of zombies for forever. And whatever's inside of that vortex is just going to add more unpredictability moments to the story. It's going to be a whole lot of fun for everybody, because I've always been fond of stories having everything to do with pirates and mermaids. I really appreciate how pirates have found their way into the conversation, because I've lived on an island for all of my life where stories about pirates have been very associated with it and fit perfectly into the history of this island, both pirates and mermaids. So given that, and how I've always wanted to go on a boating excursion and encounter either pirates and shoot cannons at each other and blow everything up, or meet a mermaid and fall in love with her, because I've always wanted to do that, I have voluntarily said on this show many times that I would voluntarily jump inside of a vortex, even though it has everything to do with associating itself with doom and the end of the world, because it looks really intriguing to me. Everything I've watched that has anything to do with fantasy, I've always believed. I've always believed in happily ever after existing. I've always believed in forever happening for everybody. I've always believed that one could find their true love, which makes this really appealing to me. I'm really buying what Disney are selling. And I know a lot of people would not necessarily buy into what Disney is selling about a story about, a day walker and a night walker falling in love and how this could present confliction. I read something interesting last night about how Victor and Nova in Zombies 5 will carry on with how they're worried now about how their relationship and their friendship will affect the two groups, the day walkers and the night walkers, and how they will hate each other eventually again because of the relationship that spawned off of everything that happened in Zombies 4 Dawn of the Vampires between Victor and Nova. But the thing is about Victor and Nova is they really inspired us to believe that our friendship with our best friend could last for forever. And that's what I really give Victor and Nova's characters a profound amount of credit for, and I have so much respect for Kylie Cantrell and Malia Baker and everybody who, represented that friendships really can happen for everybody, even if you don't think so, and really last for forever, because Victor and Nova wanted to spend the rest of their lives together, even though they were really young, and they still have a long way to go. There's that belief of how forever actually exists. And that's what's really cool about young people falling in love between the ages of, dare I say, 15, 16 years old, is they believe in happily ever after more than anybody else out there. And because they believe in happily ever after existing more than anybody else in this world, I give them a profound amount of respect and want to always and forever be there for them to support their beliefs, because the thing is, when I created this show, I never ever wanted to take that away from anybody. I think everybody deserves a chance of happily ever after existing, how they can find their true love, even if it is with a zombie. And I know how the world works. I mean, everybody that you go to school with, you think potentially they could be a zombie by how they're always never paying attention to what you're talking about, what you're showing them, what you're texting them on your phone. So, you're led to believe that everybody out there could be a zombie even when you least expect it, and one can never be too sure or too prepared for that, and that's why you have this show. But the thing about Victor and Nova, I give them a profound amount of credit for, and even Zed and Addison, is that they really did emphasize on how important it was that you could find your true love and that you could stay in love with them for forever and always. And I haven't had the best of luck with relationships or finding my true love, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist out there or can't happen for me. And that's the one thing that I've always believed and held on to about Zombies and Descendants, is that there's always hope for everybody that exists out there, no matter how crazy the story may seem, because believe you me, I've sat down with people and I've tried to watch zombies with them, and they could never make sense of the story, telling me it was stupid, it was pointless, they could never make sense of it. But I always used to say in response to that, I always used to say in response to their comments, just give it a chance. And as the years went by, it's undeniable how the story got better, how you felt more intrigued by the time that we had all these supernatural creatures eventually having seen their introduction into the Zombies franchise, and it created more of a story than ever before. And that's where the writers and producers of Zombies, I give them a profound amount of respect. Because a lot of people wouldn't have been able to take a story like Zombies and do as much with it as what the writers and producers have been able to do with Zombies. And now, what makes Zombies 5 so special is that we have Meg Donnelly and Milo Manheim for the first time sitting behind the camera, while the focus of the story will be on Nova and Victor. And I guess this is where all the rumors are ascending now from out of the abyss about how the relationship between Nova and Victor is going to cause confliction yet again in the two groups. Of course, day walkers and night walkers, which, for the life of me, I don't know why people don't understand the idea of how day walkers and night walkers are seeing such confliction. It's obviously over a blood fruit, it's over a moonstone, and it creates a really good story. In all honesty, it really does, because it's that much more unpredictable than stories we've seen from Twilight and the Vampire Diaries from years past. I mean, pretty much the Vampire Diaries had an obvious plot. The Twilight Saga had an obvious plot from the get-go. And this plot, in a generation that's not necessarily represented by vampires and werewolves anymore, it makes perfect sense. And it really excites me for the foreseeable future with the Zombies and Descendants franchises, because we don't know what's going to happen. And with how many characters have yet to see their introduction into the Descendants franchise, for example, I'm just really excited to be here and be here along for this journey, because there's so much to discuss about it and how many storylines can be created. If in fact we'll see Bridget make this evil transformation that people are speculating that she will have, but a lot of people also are choosing to believe that her time with the franchise was very short-lived and she'll never return. I, for one, have never wanted to close the book on the chances of anything happening for the Zombies and Descendants franchises, because I've always and forever believed that anything could happen at any given moment. I mean, you think about Hannah Montana and High School Musical years ago. I mean, their storylines were not as unpredictable as what Zombies and Descendants is presenting now, because Disney has really changed their direction and really come into their own with the storylines now for Descendants of Zombies, because now the franchises are getting past, 4 seasons for a TV show and a trilogy, because we're seeing up to 4 or 5, possibly 6 movies produced. And with how many people are looking for breakout roles in Disney and an opportunity to shine, like Dove Cameron and Sophia Carson were years ago, and how fabulous of a job they did with the Descendants franchise, if you're looking to break into the industry, Disney has never presented a more honorable opportunity than by being a part of a franchise such as Descendants of Zombies. I really do believe that Descendants of Zombies is going to last forever. Because you think about all the memories and the moments that Descendants of Zombies have left us with, there's never been a better time to be a fan of Disney in its entirety, and that's why I'm really excited and I never felt so intrigued by the future of Disney. I'm really excited to see where they go with everything having to do with, of course, Descendants and Zombies, even the Marvel multiverse, which a lot of people checked out of when I remained checked in, because I've been a fan of Marvel for all of my life, and you better believe me that I go out every day, and I hope that Spider-Man is going to swoop down from a building and save me from a massive explosion. I'm always looking up, hoping that Spider-Man is going to swing down from out of nowhere and save me from obscurity. And that's been the way of my life ever since Stan Lee died. And I always wondered, how would Marvel survive without Stan Lee? And I think Disney has done a fabulous job with that. So, too, have they done a fabulous job with representing all their legendary characters. I, for one, really do believe that Walt Disney himself, if he could come back from the dead and tell us, he would tell us that he's so proud of everything that Disney has done. So I think that all the criticism that Disney has received, I think that if Walt Disney could tell us himself, he would tell us that he's so proud of how far the Disney company has come. Now, I know there's probably some things he would change and probably never agree with. He probably would never agree with this or that, but I think the things that he would be proud of would significantly overshadow the things that he wouldn't be. Because you look at the success of Descendants of Zombies, Descendants of Zombies has come further than a lot of people have ever chosen to admit. And I think a lot of it has to do with jealousy. The profound success of Kylie Cantrell, the profound success of Ruby Rose Turner, the profound successes of Meg Donnelly, Mono Man, Freya Sky, and Malachi Burton. They have done a fabulous job from the very beginning with these two franchises. I think when Zombies first started, they never thought it would get this far. But I remember that moment where they hugged each other after they recorded the duet Someday, and they realized they had gotten to a moment that they had never thought the Zombies franchise would ever amount to. And they most certainly exceeded the expectations of every critic they've had out there. And Zombies, in particular, has seen its fair share of criticism, because it was said that Zombies never belonged in an era that it should have never debuted in or premiered in. It should have belonged back when Twilight and The Vampire Diaries were at the heights of its popularity. And while that may be true, I think that Descendants of Zombies have really held their own in a generation that nobody ever thought they would do such a great job representing. I think that it really brings back the feeling that Twilight and The Vampire Diaries from years prior presented us with, because we were so excited to see the latest episodes of Twilight and The Vampire Diaries and True Blood. I remember being the biggest fan of The Vampire Diaries, and I think every Tuesday night on the CW I was there for it. And I think CW saw some of its highest ratings, apart from when they used to show wrestling years ago. The CW got some of its highest ratings when they had The Vampire Diaries airing on Tuesday nights, and then they would change up the air nights. But the thing was, everybody was a huge fan of things like Buffy and The Vampire Diaries and True Blood. So when they saw something like this happening for the foreseeable future, they were really excited about it, because Disney had never tried to create a movie series off of vampires and werewolves ever before. Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire with Caroline Rhea back in the year 2000, just after the return of the millennium. Yeah, that was only one movie, but you could have easily had 2 or 3 movies, and just off the turn of the millennium, you would have thought Disney would have done more with something like Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire because of Caroline Rhea's popularity with Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but they didn't. So this is really the first thing that Disney has really tried to make the most of that has had anything to do with supernatural creatures and stuff. So I really like how Disney has also, combined this with the Marvel multiverse, and so much can be done with it. And I, for one, I've said this every time that I record a show, I, for one, refuse to believe that we have seen the last of Ruby Rose Turner, because there is still so much that can be done with her character. There's still so much of a story that has yet to be told, that has everything to do with Ruby Rose Turner, and I, for one, am excited about the future for Ruby Rose Turner's character in Descendants, because even if you don't bring her back as Bridget, there's always the chance that you can reprise her as a new character and repackage her. I've seen this done so many times in the world of entertainment where some character just kind of fades off into obscurity and the same actor or actress comes back as a reprised and repackaged character that you can really make the most of. And I think there is so much of an opportunity with Ruby because there's so much potential with her. She's just so happy to be in the presence of everybody she works with. She's just so happy to bring a character to life because Bridget had this really bubbly kind of personality that I could never seem to get enough of. And I just fell in love with Bridget perhaps quicker than I did any character that had anything to do with Descendants. And I'm not just saying this because it's Ruby Rose Turner. I've been the biggest fan of Ruby for forever and had the biggest crush on Ruby. I just think that, to say goodbye to Ruby is just jumping to a formidable conclusion that didn't need to be jumped to. The same thing can be said about Clarke and Trell, who years ago was the victim of so much criticism that she was reduced to tears. And even now, she's still being reduced to tears because she feels like her performance level is not as good as it perhaps should be. But I think that that's overshone by how supportive and how much love is given by the Descendants universe, because the Descendants fans have forever and always been supportive of people like Kylie Cantrell and Malia Baker, and that love and support is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. After the success of the Worlds Collide Tour, you can expect that we will see a leg 2 of the Worlds Collide Tour. We just don't know when it's going to happen. Rumors right now are suggesting late 2026. I, for one, am incredibly excited to see where all these stars go in the foreseeable future. Obviously, it's going to have a lot to do with new chapters of Descendants and Zombies and with how much of a story now has an opportunity to be told, especially in the Descendants franchise. I, for one, am incredibly excited to just be a part of it. I want to marvel in this for just a little while longer and talk about Descendants and Zombies for forever, really. If it were up to me, Descendants and Zombies would last for forever. While I know critics suggest that, they need to stop making Descendants and Zombies movies, while that may be true, that doesn't mean we got to believe it. We can hold on to it for just a little while longer, make it last as possible, and I give you my word that if I do anything on this show, I'm going to make sure that I make enough Descendants and Zombies videos that Descendants and Zombies will happen quicker for each and every one of you, because you deserve this for a very long time. You don't deserve to be watching the same 5 videos all the time about Descendants and Zombies that really have never made a whole lot of sense to a whole lot of people. Because I think what the critics are telling you is what they want you to believe about how they don't need to make any more Descendants or Zombies movies. But I'm here to tell you guys that if you want to hold on to your hopes and dreams for Descendants for just a little while longer, then do it. Be as big of a fan of Descendants and Zombies as you want to be, because this is a franchise that has been talked about for at least the last decade, has never ceased to amaze me, that I've been so honored to have the honor to talk about. So while I have never felt so honored to talk about Descendants and Zombies, I think it's so fun talking about Descendants and Zombies. That's the thing. And I think never enough predictions can be made about the future of Descendants and Zombies, because you can go on and on and on talking about the profound success that Descendants and Zombies has seen. But what makes this so intriguing is that there's still so much more profound success that Descendants and Zombies has to have, and still so much more of a story to be told. I mean, how much merch was sold at the Descendants and Zombies Worlds Collide Tour is one way of looking at it, and its reviews. But how did the fans feel about it is the most important thing. It's not necessarily about a review that a critic threw up online 24 hours ago that we should take into consideration. It's how we felt as fans of Descendants and Zombies. And I would go as far to say that there are so many people out there that are forever and always appreciative of being in the moment. There are so many people who have yet to experience the Worlds Collide Tour. So why not give them a second part to the Worlds Collide Tour? A second part to the Worlds Collide Tour that will have an expansion unlike anything that we've ever seen before. See emotional moments for people like Kylie Cantrell and Freya Sky. It's something that really means so much to so many people. So I think that we can, stay in this moment for just a little while longer and really become enthralled by it, because I really do believe that this is something special, something that has touched each and every one of our hearts, something that's given us a reason to believe in ourselves more, because people are more stronger now, people are more confident than ever before, and it's because it has everything to do with Descendants and Zombies. No matter who you saw yourself through the eyes of, it could be Red, it could be Bridget, it could be Mel, it could be Evie, whoever, from past or present casts of Descendants fame. The thing is, Descendants and Zombies blew up and exceeded the expectations of everybody, so why take away the hopes and dreams of anybody who's ever been a fan of Descendants and Zombies? That's what I find really intriguing and really inspiring about the Descendants and Zombies franchise, is that it's always given us a chance at hope, and made us believe that hope and happiness exists out there more than it ever has before. And I've never ever wanted to take that away from anybody who's been a fan of Descendants of Zombies. So having said that, I will be back later on this afternoon with another podcast on Descendants of Zombies, discussing everything once again about Descendants of Zombies for each and every single person who has ever been a fan of these two franchises, because these two franchises, I really do believe, are emphatically going to last forever. And I think that it's going to shy away from the criticism more than it ever has before, with how many people are subscribing to this YouTube channel every day. Thank you guys so much for always subscribing, always hitting my like button, and ringing my bell to stay up to date with notifications on everything happening on this YouTube channel. I think you're going to want to continue to do that for the foreseeable future, because I have a lot to say where Descendants of Zombies goes. Again, I will return later on this afternoon with another podcast devoted to talking about Descendants of Zombies for every single person who has ever proudly said with an open heart and an open mind they are a fan of Descendants of Zombies, because I believe the most profound way of talking about Descendants of Zombies is by doing it with an open heart and an open mind. There is no way better to do this, and I've just never felt so honored. So keep on being kind and showing kindness in your heart to everybody in your lifetime. You never know how far kindness can go and how much it can touch a person's heart. And we will talk more about Descendants of Zombies throughout today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video and this channel, and keep coming back for more great Descendants of Zombies videos and content, because of course life is always sweeter when all of us are.